You're listening to the Earth Experience podcast.
I'm on the right side of things. Okay. All right, Justin. So today's session is about Black love, and you have a few pieces of content that really digs into this, especially from the perspective of the exhaustion that comes through this conversation. There's a lot of wars online, men versus women, and it's healthy and also very satisfying to get a perspective that you carry when it comes to the whole dynamic. I want to start today's conversation with the idea of looking at it from the woman's view and you kind of receiving that from your perspective and your journey and your experiences as it relates to life through your lens and what you have seen in the woman's, what you have viewed or witnessed in the woman's world that allows you to understand maybe some of the perspective that are going to really left side or right side when it comes to love in general. I probably said a lot, but if there's anything that you can grab onto, we're here. The idea is Black love. Talk to me about your experience, one, with Black love.
So at least for me, I was never one to shy away from a relationship because it was always a big dream to become a good father. And for me, that was always a very clear process growing up. So to be a good father had to be a good husband. And to be a good husband, you had to be a good man. And be a good man might need to be able to get somebody who want to marry you. It's all factors. But in this kind of thing, my family really incentivized, one, being able to be responsible and speak to people well, but also being charismatic. It was to the extent, if it was past 10 o'clock, I could not be on the phone with a male because it did not contribute to the possibility of me getting married. And that kind of thing really, one, hurdled my social skills.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to just kind of, I don't know how to put it, sit and be nervous because it was questioning my legitimacy, right, for later on. So that was a big deal, at least growing up. And at least when it comes down to where I am right now, really I'm examining what I call performative love more than I am what real love is. That side of the conversation, I'm still working through, but performative love is a really serious relationship breaker that I've been studying recently.
It's so interesting that you use the word performative. I've seen that clip, but use the word good father and good husband. And I've been struggling with the word good, because I've had some conversations with people about good versus evil. Especially, I know we recently had the conversation about religion, but the idea of good for husband and father, where are you stemming that definition from? Is it from what you saw in your father, or are you creating a new form of belief system through your studies?
Right, but this is so you actually just nailed it. This is actually the distinction between performative love and real love. So performative love requires a dream to admire from a distance. So the type of love my father was able to put out, and it was good, but was it mine? Right? Or was it just an identity I was seeking to perform so that way I could be seen more, be more visible, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like a lot of men deal with invisibility issues. So they walk around their whole life invisible, hoping to be seen by a woman so that way they can finally see themselves. So they wait until they're in a relationship to mature. That is totally performative.
Where do you think that comes from? Like, do you have a theory on that? Because I just want to take this time to realize that as a woman, it seems in this world, we are natural nurturers in some cases. We come through where we are the mother of that young boy and that young girl. It seems when you have the same source for your parenting, or maybe the primary source of your parenting coming from your mother, you would think that there's something that is instilled in that girl that's also instilled in that young boy. But then when they grow up, it seems it's easier. And I know this is some of this is system. The system made it so that the woman could be more edified than the man, and kind of making that separation. But I still don't feel that's the excuse for the man to feel he just can't do anything. It just seems there's a crutch, and the woman always has to baby the man or do this thing for him where he's supposed to be the leader, right? But how does that happen if he was once the child of a mother, of a woman?
So we can actually go past the system side, because you're right that people usually get hung up here. It's actually just the way that men and women deal with grief. Because men believe in myth, right? Men are always admiring the bigger man in front of them, the man who can deal with the situation a little better. So this causes him to believe that his purpose, or outsourcing his purpose outside his body. So instead of dealing with the grief himself, he's going to go deal with it through dominance. He's going to export this grief, right? And that's how you end up running into a man's heartbreak before you meet a woman's. It's just how it gets there. But with the woman, she's more to grieve what she already has here, right? So, and it's an understanding of that more than anything. So most guys' manhood sits uninitiated their whole lives. Right, so they sit there constantly outsourcing, never developing, never turning inward, never meeting themselves. They just constantly export. So by the time that you actually do meet a guy, and he's talking about leadership, well, he's not talking about leadership as much as he's talking about putting everything in your chair, you being a stage for him to perform on. Leadership and oppression can be very similar if you're not a co-star. Like very, very similar. And a lot of these guys never get the chance to actually even lead themselves because they don't get the chance to meet themselves. And
that's by design. So we're saying that's by design. It's just by design of the man and the man's makeup. Because here's the thing: is there are men who's able to survive and become whatever they need to be. And it could be just my perspective and what I've been dealt with or what I see, because most of this is not actually my personal experience. It's just the observation and then the narratives that I hear. Through the narratives I hear, it feels men are evil, like they're doing all these things against women, and they are just low down, right? But then you have this. It seems this small community of men that are able to accomplish. I wonder what's the difference there. Do you think is their environment or their struggles, or is it a mixed batch? It's just some men just come out that way and some don't.
See, it's because, and this is one of those things that's just a bit contentious. Men and women are not starting from the same place spiritually. That's not what's going on.
Why you say that? Talk to that.
So it's just because the situation's a bit different. Women are just more rooted in reality immediately, right? Whether it be through safety, through being called smart, right? Just rooted in reality. But a man's masculinity typically sits uninitiated. So where a woman's on the ground, his masculinity's in the air. Right, in the myth. That's why he's worshiping the sky most of his life, talking about the celebrity, talking about the God in the clouds that he's hoping to get to one day, the man he's hoping to be one day, right? Not here though. You know what I'm saying? But when that happens though, a man needs to undergo what I call a descent. So every boy has to be brought to humility just through that, because otherwise he's gonna sit uninitiated, and then when abundance fails, he'll steal, and you'll reward him for it. Right.
What does that look like? That sit through humility? Did you have that?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like every man needs to have a moment to sit with themselves through humility. You don't always need to say, I'll fix it next time. Sometimes it just doesn't go right. Everything isn't a fixable situation. And that's something a woman understands and a man typically doesn't get the chance to accept. That you can't lead every problem back to you. Let's say a miscarriage happens. You can't fix that. That's something y'all gonna have to cry about. And as long as you think that you can export grief, you're going to be a leadership of a runaway train. And yeah, so a lot of men are in a spiritually fragile situation because they won't meet themselves. Their masculinity can't go unchecked, can't go checked. It can't get checked by anybody. The moment you try to define where their masculinity lines up, they just say they'll bleed on you. They'll talk about, what do you mean? You'll see all their wounds. They'll flinch and everything. But yeah, it's just that we're starting from a different place. So I would say like where women are rooted, men are not necessarily evil. They're more echoes of the situation. So most masculinity is an unprocessed collapse on a runaway train. An incident happened in the past, abundance failed, and instead of that being a thing that brought him to ground, it was a thing that brought him outside.
So we have the practice of humility, which is just by choice. Like the man will have to choose to not be the fixer and be okay with that and stay with his humility. What do you think are other suggestions? Like if you were mentoring young men coming up to really embody something that will actually manifest itself in relationships, are there any other areas you think that we should extend in this conversation? And I also want to look at it from the lens of the woman as well, because sometimes when I hear this conversation, especially being a woman, I think the content and the algorithm is going to be catered towards, there's something wrong with them. but not y'all, right? But I also see content where there's women supposedly exposing other women about why we are in this issue. It's a combined effort that is not just all of the men like just doing women wrong, but there's something that the woman also has to hold up to the conversation actually or take accountable for. Do you think there's something that we should identify on the women's side, or is that also because we are designed differently? I'm guessing there's going to be something different for the woman if you were to say it from your perspective.
Okay, the most dangerous thing about a man in general to the man himself, right? Be honest, right? And women need to actually. I would say if they see a man doing this, they should almost warn him. You have an identity already. To seek an identity outside of your own body will be less than who you are. No matter who it is. So let's say I want to be the greatest writer in the world. Well, that's less than Justin. I just need to be the greatest writer Justin can be. And that might be the greatest writer in the world, but I can't just be sitting here admiring a dream. Right. And a lot of men worship fantasies their whole lives. They sit there worshiping the thing that's not even here with them. That's how you end up in situations where a guy will fall for a woman, and he's not falling for a woman. He's falling for the performance he think he could put on. Right. And most women understand that they will be a stage under another grown man's heels. So when a man collapses in that type of relationship, it's not, oh, let's help each other back up. It's, why aren't you performing for me? I became a stage for you. Right. But this is all masculine behavior. This is literally how they export systems, because it always starts with exporting grief. Right. Once you export grief, that unprocessed experience turns into a little system. Now both of y'all acting masculine, can't even tell, pissing each other off, right? What's the name? And then once you get to that, you start getting into loops of patterns. Same argument comes 4 times. Not exact same thing. She always says this. He always says that. Y'all can't even figure out why y'all in the argument. But you couldn't figure out why you were sad before you got with her either. So, I mean, it's a deep mystery. Right? And then performance always leads to a collapse. And all he came to you was to perform. For me, a lot of women talk about how horrifying it is to leave a man because they get cussed out, they get called out their name, or it seems all the love shatters. But the only reason why the love shatters is because you let him obtain an identity outside of his body. What's in it? He needed to deserve to be witnessed, not be brought to a place to be seen. Yeah. And most men don't get to a place where they deserve to be witnessed. And a lot of guys, the type of people who would be teaching them this are dead or in jail, or removed from them systematically.
Why they dead or in jail?
So this is just for black men in particular. For every 10 black women, there are only 8 free black men on average. Right, due to reasons dead or in jail. And depending on the incarceration rates, it can either be 9 free black men or 8 free black men. But either way, we're not dealing with a 50-50 situation at all. Right? A lot of our elders devastated. A lot of our grandmothers were crack grandmothers and had to deal with losing their sons. And now they're supposed to be talking about how they're going to raise daughters in peace. This is a lot to deal with. A lot of times, and I always blame social media, but really it's Babylon style thought. And it's the idea that the world that you see in front of you is actually reflecting anything about your life. Right? Most of black society is just deeply shaking. If we're just being serious, deeply shaking. But TV shows a clinical version of dating. No one's ever seen this before. Everybody's having a hard time.
Describe that the TV clinical.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So people misunderstand with TVs and social media. They often think that, it's social media that's causing this. No, it's mirrors that's causing this. It's the belief that that all mirrors outside of your own, right, the one you carry with yourself, are foreign. So you start rejecting everything you see in the outside world and start worshiping your perception. Right. So if you were a depressed person worshiping your perception, well, God ain't never gonna reach you. Right. But that's something that people do before they get into a relationship, and they make it even worse. And then it's just then it becomes about a fact on whose perception God is stronger. Because if his view of the world was based on dominance, but yours was based in healing, well, his was literally around beating you.
Wow. Okay, we had to sit here for a little bit.
It was around defeating you. This is how hyper-masculine men always cripple the hyper-individualistic woman. Because hyper-individualistic women always pretty, always gonna turn out a bad bitch, but exhausted, right? Okay, when he sees her, she reminds me of my masculinity. But the only other thing that she mistakes for is that even though she reminds him of his masculinity, that makes him happy, he equates masculinity with dominance, so he must conquer her. So that's why she has to come out of makeup all of a sudden in the relationship. Pulled her using Sephora.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but she has to come out all the makeup in the relationship. She can't dress how she used to because it was about crushing her spirit. That's what this whole thing was about. It was about standing on her ass. Listening. And I'm a lot of people, this is what I mean by that identity outside the body. If he only starts smiling when you walk in, you complete me style talk, he need to cut the R&B off.
Mm-hmm.
He need to cut it off. You complete me, whoa.
Yeah. Oh, so what? This is good because the R&B music does have an impact on how we see love and how we want it to be. We don't really get any lessons on how to really love one another well. All we see is what we get, right? So for some households and families, it might be that your father or mother was absent. For some households and families, you might see that they stayed together for y'all, but they were always arguing. For some household and families, we see that because there was only the woman that showed up and she had to be dominant, a man might go out and still naturally cling on to that. Oh, my mom did it because that's all I saw. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to expect that that's what you're going to do. And so it kind of doesn't correct itself. Ooh. But if we're going to the root of, okay, so what are we actually supposed to do? I hear that the man is coming in and he's listening to the R&B and he sees masculine in her, but how is anyone supposed to really shift from that? The man themselves and then the woman, how is she supposed to protect herself from even getting into that?
Let's go deep. Let's go deep. Yeah. I got more for you. So okay. this breakthrough that I've had the last few days has really painted the picture for me. The goal for white supremacy is to trap Black society in what I call the infinite hallway, right? Where all productivity is all the meaning is, right? You don't have purpose outside of your ability to walk further in this hallway. And the goal is never for you to finish it. The goal is for you to die in there. That's the whole point of it, right? So no. So that's the whole idea, right? This whole super constricted infinite hallway. And when you get tired, when you stop walking, that's when they start slamming you about it. But Black society genuinely needs to have a day to grieve, right? A day that we selected. That's how you get past a lot of this type of stuff. Because a lot of women don't even understand that the reason why they're is because the man hates the type of woman their mom was to raise them. And you just happen to be the same age as her now. Mm. That's all that was. Right, you literally look just when he was 3, right? And he resents her. He wasn't even gonna be able to make it past you. And one of the big things that I've been really reckoning with is that I think most men need to wait till they can respect their mothers as even women, or understand how to respect a woman before they can understand motherhood. Because it's a 2-step process, not a 1-step. You don't just get to be a mother and then your womanhood not be seen. And a lot of guys think that's viable. That's a little thing they could just skip over. It's a little spiritual bypass. And I'm not, we need time for dudes to grieve. It's been a huge amount of just sheer failure. We can admit things went wrong. What's the name? Masculinity got blown up in our community. Masculinity devastated, right? And then Black femininity was exhausted to the extent where Black women are looking out to the world. I got the answers, but not the energy to give y'all the solution. It literally is getting that. Right, and I think that we really need to just take a chance to just sit here and say this isn't going right. It's okay. That's okay, because we're still here together saying it. It's gonna be way different when we individuals saying it.
I think that's really important. That part right there, because honestly, I'm almost, how do we get to the solution? But it really is okay. Let's just sit here and acknowledge that we're tired, we're exhausted, and whatever it is that y'all are feeling. Are you able to still communicate it, but not have it be connected to who I am as a woman or a man? The word is exhaustion, but we have to say, y'all exhaust me. You know what I mean? Like we have to put it on someone else in order for us to really express it. But I think that day of grief, or however many days we need, really needs to be sitting there and just acknowledging it, but in its truest form, getting to that root of, hey, this is the word here. When you do with naming, we're naming this, but we're not going to put any blame on anyone yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And the thing is that a lot of people have never even encountered real grief before. And that's one of those things that's struggling in our community. Real grief isn't I'll do better next time. Real grief is not I know how to fix it. That's not what real grief is. Real grief is when you have no answers and all you could do is explain what happened to somebody else. That's real humility. Because if everything isn't a problem you need to run from. And in Black society, they encourage this type of notion to keep our men from developing. So our men don't feel they can take a risk without going to prison somewhere in the story. This is literally part of the problem. Because men need to go embrace risk and then come home with no solutions and just explain sometimes.
That's good.
Because they need to be able to know they can be accepted for their mistakes. I would say that was one of my biggest realizations in my dating life at all. Was meeting a woman who I could be honest with thoroughly. Now, this doesn't mean a woman I can make mistakes with thoroughly, right? No, not the same thing, right? Because you need to practice responsibility to be a man, just in general, right? But the fact that I was able to go, yeah, I didn't know how to say that right. I didn't need to have the answer. I just needed to be able to express, I didn't know how to say that right, right? And sometimes what you said sorry doesn't necessarily feel as good as you made them feel bad, but y'all are at least clear.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think even saying it that way, I didn't know how to do it, is way more felt than I'm sorry. Because like, sometimes when you say the words I'm sorry, it always feels kind of like, what is the word? Pocket. That's not the word. It's almost default, right? You're saying I'm sorry, like if you say these trigger words, these keywords, you'll get away with it. But that I'm sorry can translate to like, I didn't know what I was doing, or like I felt insecure. If I can say it that way, then I have to kind of own that something else is off and that I might be doing things that make me react to you in a way that's not really fair to you. And I think that's on both sides. Right.
Right, for sure. And a big thing.
Women,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, for women, I think that sometimes when I'm in the seat of the woman and I'm feeling what they're saying, it's very easy for me to understand why there's so much heartache and pain on the other end. But I have a hard time trying to capture on the men's end, like, why can't you do what the women are doing? And I know you mentioned that we're designed differently, but it's also like, whoa.
He's uninitiated. I'm just being honest. Most men's masculinity doesn't develop until 40. We're not dealing in a situation where everybody is going to be finishing on time. This is how bad the situation is. Because everybody think everything's just going right. It's not. Our men are developing later than ever, right? Our women are developing earlier than ever out of stress. Ooh. Right. So this is not some situation where we're just culturally on fairgrounds. Everything just should be functioning right. They hit us over the head and we're sitting here recovering, acting we can walk fairly. Things aren't going right. That's why sometimes I'm explaining something and somebody will go, this is simple. It don't even matter no more. It really don't. Like, most men aren't going to make it to this level. And we're going to have a lot of 40-year-old people who are single.
Okay, so that makes sense when we talk about this. There's a narrative, it's better to date older men, because if you're saying it reached at 40, then they probably get into these relationships a little bit more profound. But the other thing about this is it feels this war will keep a stunt in that growth for that man who could potentially get to 40 and start to really cultivate everything that you're saying about the humility and learn all these things so he can unlearn what he needs to unlearn. But because this war online, and maybe it's just what's been fed to the feed, maybe there are healthy relationships out there that, and I believe that they are, I know that they are, I exist in them, I know them around me. But when I'm in social media and I'm investigating, it feels everyone is upset and everyone's mad. But it also feels it's manufactured for everyone to stay there. So one, there's no maturity for the man, and he continuously blames the woman. And for the woman to have such a grudge against the man that she never will ever wants to deal with him. I'm going to transition to this video and I want to play a game with you called Yay or Nay. And I think this kind of speaks to some other parts of this conversation that I never heard before, and I want to see your take on it.
Okay.
1 second. Okay, Justin, so I've been playing around with this game called Yay or Nay. The idea of the game is for growth. It goes way deeper than what we're going to do today. But I want you to kind of just join me in this game. And it's going to be a little bit of some improv because you're going to kind of strip out the questions. So here is the challenge for you. We're going to listen to this woman's full video. And whenever a quote stands out to you, I want you to write it down. And I want you, if there's more than one, I want you to write those down. And we're going to go through each one of those quotes. So after we watch the video, you can write it as you hear it. We're going to go through the ones that stood out to you. And I want you to share why they stood out to you. Then we're going to transition to this yay or nay prompt with each one. And I'll share that with you once we get to that point. So far, watch the video, take note of any quotes that stand out to you, and then in the back of your head, think about why.
Y'all will never hear me say this too often, but it's this white girl on here who be telling people that men aren't shit. Like, it's no reason for you to be dating men. Dating a man and being in a relationship with a man is literally a humiliation ritual. She's a white girl and she's been down my For You page. I am obsessed with her content. I have never said that about a white woman ever in my life, first of all. But everything she says, oh my gosh, I'm kind of like a grease ball right now. Ugh. I hate this lighting. Hold on, let me. Okay, that's better. Yeah, everything that she be saying is literally like Bible, like literally. Dating a man is a humiliation ritual. Being involved with a man is a humiliation ritual. And if you are involved with a man, like, or seen with a man, whether it's, I don't know, it could be your brother, it could be your father, bro. It could be your friend who's a man. Like, dealing with men in general is literally a humiliation ritual because you literally have to water down a part of yourself in order to sustain their fucking ego. And a bitch like me, I don't tear down niggas' egos. I don't like niggas around me having confidence. So you can get the confidence to say whatever the fuck you feel like saying to me. I would, you feel me? Like, please.
Okay, so one thing I always try to point out when I do use someone else's content is that we're looking at the actual content, what comes out of the experience that could be labeled on any other woman or that could be in this place. But Justin, did you get any quotes that stood out to you?
We only have 2 notes, honestly, because I can encompass the whole thing.
Okay.
But the thing is that she's been through these humiliation rituals. Men need to go through a descent. A descent is a descent to bring him to humility. That's the whole point of the descent. So it is a humiliation ritual. Now, this is something he needs. But here's one of those things. People always say, I'm not going back and forth with you. You need to let people go back and forth with themselves, offer them a mirror to see themselves. But this is one of those problems where I would say, this is where patriarchy always impacts matriarchy, and matriarchy never just gets it right. Because matriarchy doesn't give men enough to do. It doesn't, right? So she's sitting there tolerating his humiliation. He's going through the humiliation ritual on purpose to learn humility. But instead of offering a mirror to allow him to see himself, right, she'd rather fit him into another identity role. That's all masculine, what we heard, right? The idea that you must embrace an identity to do something, right? You can't just do it as yourself. You're not just capable as the individual.
It seems the people in the comments were sharing about being humiliated by the man versus him actually practicing that humiliation. And I don't know if you ever seen any of the podcasts, but there's podcasts going out of couples that have been together. And it also has that ring of humiliation because it's always at the detriment of the woman of having that humiliation. What do you think is needed for a woman to still have belief in a man during this humiliation process? Are women supposed to be staying away from men during the humiliation process? What does that look in real life when we know this exists?
This is hard to say. And I didn't even need to cut you off. It's just hard to say.
No, that's good.
A lot of people, and this is something I've had to explain to women before. You cannot heal a black man.
Wow.
You can't do it. You can't do it.
People feel doing it.
And see, the thing is, but a lot of women feel they can and can assist in some method.
Yeah, sure.
No. If he hasn't met himself, let him meet himself. Okay, attractiveness is about who can make my life easier. This is what's also fucking up this whole thing. Because it's not just based on common sense, it's based on attraction. And in a white society, white supremacist traits look attractive due to capitalism. So a dominant man has the money. So you talking about, I want a man who can pay for everything, and I want a woman who ain't gonna ask questions. Right. You're not even on the same field of the conversation because he's dreaming about the identity he could step into, and you're talking about how to manage abundance. Right. And this is why I said you can't help a black man, because if you see a black man struggling, I need you to accept the fact that you're hopeless. as the woman, I need you to accept it. You can offer him a mirror to see himself, but you are hopeless. Right? So when you see this man on this humiliation ritual and there were signs he had not met himself. There were signs, right?
Yeah.
One of them was that he was only kind to her as her man. He was only nice to her when he was attracted to her, right? But the moment that she made his life harder, he went harder. Right, that's all it was. He wasn't here to tend. This is one of those things where a relationship is a field y'all two tend together like daily. It's not anybody you own. It's a field y'all are in together. Right, but in this field, sometimes you got to understand that everybody can't just stay in the field. It's the bond y'all have, not the person. So you can have a seat open for him. Cool. And he can have everything he loves in that seat. But that's all you have open for him. That's all you have for him, an empty seat. So if he don't want to come sit down, you have to let him get up. Right, that's all you have is the bond. You don't have nothing else, right? If you don't have a bond, it's raps. I just need people to understand there's less that you can do, because the idea that you can that there's some kind of way to reframe this to make Black women safer is a misunderstanding. Disentangle yourself. Decenter men, disentangle yourself, let us rap, and we'll send the good guys over. The good guys.
Yeah.
All this entanglement is comical. What's it is?
So that would be on the woman, right? I think this is where the accountability comes in for the woman's side. Is we don't really have these stories to tell if we don't try to heal them, is what I'm hearing. If we don't try to get them to sit down when they want to stand up, we don't even get into this humiliation on our end because we're allowing them to grow. I think what becomes uncomfortable is it seems if you don't come in, there's not going to be any growth happening, and they'll just be all to themselves. And then women will be all to themselves because they're kind of tired and they would be able to live without them. What is the beauty of men and women coming together? Because sometimes you can make a case that, men don't need women or women don't need men, especially because they keep going at war with one another. But maybe there is the case.
I would say this. The only reason I'm alive is because men and women begin alone. Right. I'm just saying this throughout all of history. The only reason why we're all here talking about it is because men and women have been getting along. Now we've created systems that allow men to run away from their own issues. This is part of the deal. This is how empire logic works. Right. Empire logic is about, I want a statue. I don't want to be a father. I want to be an influencer. I don't want to be responsible. That's what mirror world looks like. Right. We need to talk about guys who are willing to turn away from the glass. Now, older guys were used to doing this. Right. But this is what I mean by the lack of free Black men. We genuinely don't even have the ancestral capacity, right? Every generation for a Black guy is the first one. This is genuinely that type of setback. So when people are always, why isn't our culture succeeding? You need to dream better for us, like our ancestors did. Our ancestors did not have the tools to fix all the problems in their lifetime. Slavery did not end in a lot of our folks' time. But they dreamed for us. They dreamed that their kid who could never afford glasses could 3 generations later get glasses. Right, like that, they just paid for that. And this is the same thing we need to do for our relationship scene. So anybody who's been too traumatized by the scene, go lay down. But go dream for us. That's the purpose of you laying down. Right, the purpose of you laying down is to create a population of people who are not only tired of it, but have admired a different world that we couldn't even see.
When I hear you say dream, I'm going back to those love songs that we talked about earlier, because now I'm thinking about the fairy tales that we have in our head that comes from the dreams, and then we put that into our art. We have the Black love shows, or even shows when I was growing up that showed we was getting along. I think the Cosby Show was something that always comes to people's mind, but it kind of goes back to even my favorite Black shows. Or even, what is it? Not All in the Family. What was the one with Carl Winslow? It wasn't major, but you seen presence. And I think some of our dreams are really basic. It's not even, we need all these things to happen. It's just show up. If you can't do it your best, at least show up and try your best.
Let me put you on, right? This is my problem with a lot of this, right? There's really 2 solutions to the dating scene in the public. No one wants to talk about it, but there's 2 solutions, basically, right? There's the representation solution, which is what integration is always wanted, which is we get a beautiful Black couple on TV and we get all healthy models on TV, and that means life is better. Right. That's one answer. Everybody starts acting right. No more pop the balloon. No more all of that. Right. And everybody acts right. Right. Okay. The second option is that the state comes and fixes men for them. Being serious. People want men to be addressed so badly that they were actually okay with the government reinstitutionalizing men. Okay.
Oh, that's crazy.
Right. But okay, this is all fine. This is all fine. Whether we're talking about cancer, celebrity, I need people to understand that no mirror is a replacement for presence. You are not your reflection. You are what light is before it touches the glass. So all that stuff that's on the TV, irrelevant to a black person. Truly is. It might be hard for some people to hear, but it truly does not matter what we show to a black person. Their life will be the same, systemically. It does not matter what Beyonce sings about. Life will be the same systemically. Even with the government does not care about you. You, as black women, though, neither of those answers work. The only thing that really will be able to take black men to where they need to go is if they practice humility at a mass scale, if we embrace grief at a mass scale. That's the only way to do it. We need men who are willing to cry for their families in the future that they haven't even had the chance to treat wrong yet. Just the possibility. And this is one of those things I always preach about a lot, because you're always whole. Everything you need to be mature is already in your body. Everything you already need to be a better person is already with you. You just flinch at it every time it comes. You're not going to see it on TV, what you need to see out of black society. Nope. You're never going to see it in the law, what you need to see out of black, nope, none of that. You're not even going to find it in a man who got the house right. You only going to find it if he's been willing to step out of the mirror and sit with the things that he's running from all week. Like, that's the only thing. You just keep running to the mirror. And the way I call them a mirror is because they always look. You could think of TVs, actual mirrors, phones, just as ways to see false representation. Way for people to believe their perception more than their own life.
Ooh, that's good.
But that's what most black people are doing. We see how we're depicted poorly, and we get so mad at it. And then we go home, and all the things that's calling to us about what we need to do to fix our part of black society at our house, we flinch at.
That's it. That's it.
But we can check somebody online, right? But that's because online is not about burning. So anything that can glow visibly, right? I call it a catastrophic echo chamber. That's what social media really is. It's a mirror of reflections acting like it's the source of its own life. Where do they get these jokes from? Where all this AAV showing up on TikTok, where's that coming from? All these problems that showed up on the internet, who's dealing with them? Black people in real life. And they're running from emotions that would have led them back to where they already needed to be in real life. That's why ain't nobody getting nothing done in the government until we figure out why we keep getting cheated on. Yes. But the answer to it is in the amount of fear we have in facing ourselves in public, because black people have been institutionally shut down into not being full functioning people. Most black men even deal with what I call social regression. They get desocialized as they get older on purpose. They start off real cute. You have a little boy, you love him. And then you send him out to be socialized, and he comes back even more mature than when you found him, right? That's because the world desocializes black men on purpose.
What does that look for someone, maybe even a parent, looking out for that? What do you think they should be looking out for? Or are they not? Because it's so interesting that you even say to the woman to sit back, because I think some of these women are the mothers, right, of these little black boys. And it seems part of the parenting is some type of instruction and guidance. So it really won't be, hey, you can just get up. It's, hey, I do need you to sit down, but this is why I need you to sit down. Does that not work with the mother and young boy dynamic?
We're so close. The mother needs the young boy energetically, not in presence. He needs to respect her as a woman. She's a woman first, before she's a mother. And unless you know how to respect a woman, you're not going to know how to respect a mother. It's structurally impossible. But what happens is, for a lot of black boys, is that they sit there and admire the identity position of a mom. Oh, well, you're not good because you don't meet the identity qualifications. Instead of, you're not good because I've met myself and I know it's good for me.
Okay, so then we have to figure out, where's that taught? Because the mother would have to teach the son to respect. Or do we feel they're getting this idea of good, which we kind of have to uncover from their mirrors on television, or just what they perceive and the people around them? There has to be one case where we're like, okay, how did a mother raise a young boy that doesn't respect women? Is there something that's supposed to go on there? Because the young boy won't naturally have that maturity or understanding what to do. And that's just my perspective. Maybe there's something else that we can.
Let me tell you how this is supposed to typically work. Two parents in a household. Mom gives energetically. The mom has to start behaving as a woman who demands respect, because the fact she's a woman, because that's what the man is going to do. We're just being serious. So the man typically is there to show the child the risks associated with not being humble around a woman, like actually explaining this. That's the whole point. The man is supposed to be there to show the child how to practice responsibility. And a lot of that is how to act around women. I mean, just being honest, right? And In this kind of way, because the father's typically running from the boy in their own lives, they just set the boy to run from themselves. So when he goes outside and undergoes his descent, when he comes back and faces humility, he lies because he doesn't think he'll be accepted, because that's what his father thought. This is it literally comes down generationally. That I think is very important. And normally we have more of a community because us Black people really value that. But I would say right now, the biggest thing that's important to show is to take him out of the glass. So boys need chances to take risks and not see themselves in the reflection and have to be told that it'll be better next time, it'll be fixed, all that stuff. They need to sit in stillness and understand risks and let them bring their masculinity down to earth, right? Not down in a way that it's less prideful. No, it's masculinity, but on the ground, more rooted. And then explanations that don't involve it'll be better next time. Just explanations, because it isn't always going to be better next time. Right, it isn't. That's what parents always miss. They always miss that, because when you set the boy up to believe that once they learn once, it'll never happen again, it gets him to flinch at his own mistakes.
That's good.
Right, he needs to know that mistakes happen and I learned from them. Period. That's it. That's it. There's literally nothing else to the whole equation. But sometimes what us parents, not even us parents, but I'm just talking about adults in general relating to children, we typically getting so beat up by capitalism that we too ready to put on the Band-Aid before letting the kid sit with the wound. We explaining wisdom when they ain't sat with nothing yet. People don't understand that you don't need to always separate from your child physically. Energetically, it's important. You and the child need to be in timeout together sometimes, saying nothing. It's not when could I get up? No, this is risk. We're sitting in risk right now.
I want to paint a scenario. Can you do that? Give an example of maybe a mom and a son going at it, and then what it looks. Do we? Because when I'm hearing sit in timeout, I literally am taking that literally, and I feel that probably is something that I would practice and I find value in. But take me through the actual scenario of illustrating this for someone in their day to day. Maybe the young boy is going through his hormones, and they're responding to their mom, they masculine or big man, and they probably talking back to the mother, and the mother feels disrespected.
One of the things that I would say is big, right, is understanding the cost to the child morally. Because a lot of parents just think it's a me-them thing. No, your child loses out when everything doesn't go right for you. I just want people to know it's a direct relationship. So for instance, in that moment, that boy might associate his masculinity with dominance, right? So he's trying to look for spots to equate dominance, right? But you can't give what you're not willing to receive. So if he's not even willing to receive what instruction looks from you, he doesn't even have it right now himself. Doesn't understand that. So I would say in moments that would be a good time, one, to have him just sit, right? He needs to sit with himself. That's it. Or you could even let him sit with himself in just a mirror. And the things that he does with the mirror is important, because he might make faces in the mirror. That's him making a mockery of himself. He finds himself as a joke. Literally, that's how it turns out, because people be thinking kids are playing. No, kids are actually trying to tell you how they feel about their own lives a lot of the time. So in that whole case, when he's looking at himself, the big thing that you would have to explain here is that you don't need to become someone. You need to be becoming right now. You need to be here. That whole little dream, you think you'll just know how to listen to me in 3 months? You won't. You think in 5 years that you'll just know how to go act right in public? It just won't happen. So we just got to sit here. We got to be becoming right now. It's difficult, right, in a situation where we don't have the community and functioning in its way. Because the typical way it will go is that you would send your child out. They would come back with whatever happened. An adult would explain to you what happened. Child wouldn't even speak. Then after that moment, the child would just sit with it. And the whole point of it is that the child was accepted for their mistakes. It doesn't require a penalty. It requires them to sit with their shame. With a single mother, you have to interpret more risk because you have more risk in your own life. It's just a greater scale to the type of humility he needs, because he needs to know the life y'all are facing together, not the one that he's going to face. Because a lot of people were too busy preparing our child for adulthood, but not preparing our child for this month's rent. Because I'm going to act differently this month because this month's rent is pissing me off. Bring them down to the ground. When I be saying masculinity's in the air, I mean it's in the future for most men. And they don't leave that mindset. I mean, it's in the money for most men. And they never leave the mindset. They think they can only act mature if they get $1 million. Like, you see what I mean? They always elevate where their masculinity should be instead of saying, here's where I am right now. And this is why it's so hard to have a kid or even meet men who have never met themselves. The whole point of your mom is supposed to be there to show you yourself. Even if y'all sit there and beef, you met yourself through her, right? That's the whole point. And even if energetically things aren't the same and it takes him a while to understand the value of you being a woman and all that instruction, all that, you were still the one to show him himself. That it's immeasurable value. and this is a white supremacist trauma that we have, is that we think unity means agreement, and it does not. Okay, unity means to disagree, but to understand that it's not chaos, it's jazz. We're just in the middle of two conflicting tones, but this is two pieces of the whole song. So maybe he doesn't take punishment seriously because whenever he faced punishment, it wasn't about him, it was about how the world judged him. Things that happen. What's the name? And that's how kids get desocialized. So I would say it's just important to keep in deep touch with this kind of thing, because he got to understand the process. He's not learning how to respect a mom because he only gonna have one of those. You are a woman. He gonna meet all of them. What's the name?
And earlier, you mentioned Pop the Balloon. Have you ever seen any of those shows? Like the one
conceptually, it's just one of those things where it doesn't exist in real life. I don't know.
We talked about the humiliation process throughout this conversation, and that seems two things that we discussed. One, the humiliation, right? People are seeing themselves, and they're seeing how Black people are dating and what they're saying about one another. But we're also being able to see that mirror, right? That mirror of you think one way, you think that this way that you have seen yourself is okay, but then the whole world of comments gives you this input to help you consider something different. When I think about the Pop the Balloon show, I think about, okay, initially, the one that I seen, the one that I think of the most is the one with it's a husband and wife combination. And it seemed it was promising. But I think this is what I get caught up into when I think about the images that we have online. Is that, oh, it's a husband and a wife. They're trying to get couples together. They have a Christian background, so it's kind of painting together this perfect story. And then they're not leading with everything has to be Christian, but they're just allowing anyone to come on and really share who they are and, you know, what makes them pop. When you say that you struggle with it, are there things that stand out to you that you think could be explored as it relates to what seems a humiliation ritual too on both ends for men and women?
I feel like living in a white society is a humiliation ritual. Being spiritually abducted is humiliating. And they humiliate us all the time. Literally, they practice outsourcing shame. Things that they should be ashamed about, they project on us all the time. And I would say this is just something that Black women and Black men feel high scales. Black men feel they're supposed to be a provider with no cash. That is literally like stuff this. I would say, but in relation to Pop the Balloon, it's just a male fantasy. Pop the Balloon is literally set up to be pornographic. It's direct male fantasy. It gives the impression of options. It rewards visibility more than actual burning something away. Because none of these people ever figure out what they have in common or what they're aching about in the room. They don't even get the chance to trauma bond in the room. They just get the chance to have sexual exposure. And a lot of it is cheap sociology, in my mind. Yeah, I don't even know what it's for all the way. Not even sure. In some cases, I know the purpose of the gender war. The purpose of the gender war is really just the gender carnage. Like, we're just sorting through rubble. As somebody picks up one point from another, knock it over another person. It's a sign of debris field. That's what I see, a debris field. But if we're talking about Pop the Balloon is just pretending this is viable. This is not viable. It's not reasonable information for me to see who Lil Baby is going to pick out of 5 Black women. Probably all 5. Like, I don't know.
Some of the things that stand out is I think that people do expose themselves and their insecurities. And I always wonder, why would anybody come on the show? Why would they come on the show? For an example, there might be someone who comes on the show and he's a shorter man. And then everyone is popping because they're taller. And from their perspective in real life, it's like they don't really get popped on in everyday life. Maybe they do hear, oh, you're too short. But to that degree, it's not that prominent. The other thing that stands out to me is the question, why are they not your type? And it's kind of drawn out why they're not your type with such little information. In some cases, sometimes it feels a little bit damaging when I hear that question over and over again, because the only thing that comes out of why they're not your type usually ends up in some type of insult to the other person. So I wonder, when we're expressing ourselves and we're trying to be true, this is why you're not my type. You're not my type because you don't make me feel safe. You're not my type because you are young-minded. You're not my type because of these things. You still have to be honest with those things, but in the show, is you're not my type because you're short most of the time. In some cases, it could be how you're dealing with other people, but it seems damaging. But it's also, well, how, but maybe the war is okay if we're getting to expression. We have to express these things that we hate first. And it might be a lot of loudness, but when we talk about that interaction between the woman and the son, is we're showing ourselves to one another.
See, I might need to even walk back my idea that this is cheap sociology, because it feels like high. I could also call it high grade identity politics, because what the gender war is about is how Black masculinity and Black femininity were in chains, but in chains distinctly from each other. That's basically all it's about. Pop the Balloon seems to be about an expression of white metrics in a Black format. That is just racking my mind. Because none of those are Black metrics, what you just described. Those are white society metrics. Black metrics are real rap. Okay, are we gonna take care of everything? Do you season food? How to Dougie?
How to Dougie is a Black metric. Wait a second.
These are real questions. I'm scared of a Black person who don't know how to Dougie safely.
Oh my goodness, I don't know how to Dougie. I listened to the song. I definitely don't know.
You gotta fix that.
It's been more design. But yeah, I don't know how to Dougie. I the song, but what I definitely did grow up around a lot of people who didn't know how to Dougie.
those are the real questions. That's Black cultural questions. A lot of you're too short, you're too tall, white society stuff. And what society is this benefiting? It's probably.
But that's interesting, because I believe that the Black metrics do have some strength to them. When I think about Black metrics, I always equate it to like Christian values. Do you go to church? I feel those are like standard Black metrics, even though right now everyone is not a monolithic, everyone is not church. I feel what I think about Black metrics, I think about things that I remember fathers taking care of their families, even if they didn't have a lot of money, you still saw honor in that. Or I see Black metrics, which is probably stemming from discipline too. There's a little bit of control that we have, but it's just this art of discipline when it comes to the children that we're trying to raise. We're trying to discipline them because we think that if we discipline them this way, it's going to be safe for them. But I don't know. But I do see that when we talk about money, it really dilutes the conversation, because do we know that there are a lot of people with money who have no integrity and don't have any care? If I take away their money, what does that leave me with? And this goes back to a TV show quote. I don't know if you ever seen A Different World, but there's this quote from, do you remember Dwayne? Did you see that show?
I've seen pictures of Dwayne. I saw that show, I was a child.
Yeah, Dwayne has a girlfriend, and she's real high maintenance and everything. And there's this question about if he was rich, would that make her desire him? But she listed all these other characteristics about a man that would still ultimately make them rich, right? If instead of looking at their money first, are you wise enough to be a good steward to keep that money? That's not what she said. I can't remember, but the idea is there.
Trajectory matters a lot more than destination, right? A lot more, especially for a Black person. Being Black is not about reaching your dreams. It's about having them in the first place. And that is the whole thing about it. When people say, do you go to church or do you believe in God? What they're really asking is, do you have the faith necessary to walk with me? That is basically the question.
I would say that
you always got to look beneath the pattern, because if it's a pattern, that means that we're missing nuance to keep the pattern, so I can feel safe in here. But the nuance underneath that pattern is that you fear that due to the struggle that you got going on in your life, if you can't have faith with that person, you'll break. That's part of the problem, right? You're basically asking, can you carry yourself?
Yeah.
That's what I mean by when I'm thinking people need to just have more intentional conversations, because you just can't be preserving all these patterns, all these little mirrors and reflections you ran into on a day-to-day and think that's the right way to go about things. We live in a devastated community. You can't trust none of these patterns that we have. None of them. Right? We even have patterns received from the CIA and stuff. This all needs to be rebuilt from scratch. So that's why whenever even in that video, right? Whenever they're always just a humiliation ritual because pattern. Well, I can tell you who was last looking for a pattern in Black society and what they did with that.
Tell us.
They just killed everybody. Intelligent Black man was a pattern, took him. Successful Black man was a pattern, took him. A non-exhausted Black woman, that was a pattern back then too. We took her too. Speaking indigenous language, that was a pattern they took to school. Got that right about you. All that. Blacks, literally white supremacist tactic is the detection of patterns within a complexity, within a big thing, and then stripping everything else off.
This conversation is so important because when I hear about white supremacy and that pretty much being a problem, it almost seems Black people will be their best if we just got rid of that. We know that getting rid of that probably requires maybe a lot of dreaming. I don't know. But whatever it does, it seems like it needs to be explored a little bit more, because going back to this conversation of the relationship between Black men and Black women is stemming from how a Black man is kind of looking for this white supremacy actualization or whatever, but it's far from him, and the examples are all dead or in jail. It seems there's no hope. It seems there's no hope. When we say there's no goal, really there is no goal. How do we still exist and try to attempt a joyful life where it feels white supremacy is going to exist?
See, white supremacy isn't immortal, and this is not the first time it's caused the supremacist style fashion. This is another pattern. They do this all the time. I need people to know that they did this in Europe first before they did this here. This is insanely common. But a good way to think about this is that we exist right now. Society is the largest it's ever been. It also has the most coons in it, but
it has the most what?
Most coons.
Oh, okay.
But in this whole thing, it's never about did it look, it's about are we here? Right? And that's what makes Blackness a blessing. Because no matter what the difficulty is, not only are you a witness, you get to be a dreamer. It has a whole little thing. But see, this is what white society never gets to do. See, Black society, we will sit there, struggle, dream, then build. White society only believes. And dreaming and believing are different things. They believe that there's some kind of force carrying them across the world. Okay, that's fine. But I will also say that supremacist cultures freeze over. They collapse in on themselves. The goal is never to face a supremacist culture head on. That's a mistake. You need to outmaneuver a supremacist culture until it collapses in on itself so you don't get caught in it. Because they never last. They always boil themselves out. They always fragment so much until everybody's arguing about nothing. This happened in Rome too. Divisions in Rome's political structure got so bad at some point, people were arguing on how in the house because they could not agree on what Rome was. Okay, this is very common. This happens all the time. And it always leads to a spiritual collapse. So you just gotta let them run with it. They want to see that, that's fine. We've given them, I think I've documented this, 8 chances since we came in contact with white society to fix everything. Okay, they only got 1 more left. I mean, in all these little collapses, and every time Black society gets blown up, we've been standing. White society depends on the government to avoid collapse. Right? Because they've already collapsed before, several times. If that ever happens, best believe they will be looking for answers. We will be the only people left standing with the answers. The biggest risk for Black society is not white supremacy, because white supremacy is mythic. That's the dangerous part of it. We need to not get exhausted by the lie.
Yeah.
Black people have a dream. We have the dream for this world. And people don't even understand winning in this dream. Everybody wins in this dream. But everybody doesn't win in that belief. And I remember I was talking about this whole identity performance thing. They're performing the lie of white supremacy. And performance always leads to collapse. And they've been using Blackness as a stage this whole time to perform white supremacy. But when they collapse on the stage, we always look up at white people to what's going on right now. Whenever the economy fails, that's how I feel. I look at white society, okay, so what do you got to say? Because they got all the money, right? I'm just saying stuff like that. But I'm maneuvering that lie that they're actually mythic because they struggle all the time. White people actually need reparations in some areas of the Appalachians, but they won't do it because some Black people will get some. They need to suffer. They need to go do all that. I mean, they stripping away laws that protect themselves right now. You gotta let them have it. I say we got to stay out of things. Everybody think that you could be in circles with somebody. Let people circle themselves. Let them rotate themselves for a minute. They've been performing. I'm telling you that the moment that Blackness steps up to the stage as this collapse goes on, they're gonna point the finger different than they ever had before this because they got technology to point it now. And one thing we really will see out of this is a deep anti-Semitic flare-up, a deep anti-Asian hate flare-up, because Blackness isn't gonna accept the treatment anymore. But they need somebody to perform white supremacy on. It's gonna be a long day.
It's a long day.
It do. But I just need Black people to understand it's not our day to lay down. We're gonna lay down. Like when your grandmother loses Medicaid, you'll probably take care of her anyway. But
do you think it will naturally correct itself? Because we still have that. I feel like Black love has a lot to do with us rising to the occasion when we are there. Because right now, if we look at the state now, we're still separated. I don't see that being the best foundation of order.
Because we don't be needing black love all the time. We just black love because that's the thing that got stolen from us. But we don't need it at all present times. It's just deeply important to black society. Black people are extremely romantic, hyper romantic. But that's because they separated us as families first. It was the first shocking trauma of it all, right? It was unbelievable the fact that could even happen on an industrial level. So that's why we fixate on love so much. When blues, R&B, all that stuff, all them hums, we was fixating it because we had love for each other and we had to keep seeing that be worth less. And that type of thing causes an ache. But we really need to get back to the point where we can respect ourselves as being black people. Black love is about what blackness is about, right? That's the initial wound. We're going to get back there anyway. I promise we'll get back over there. But we got to get back to where we can respect women too. Because if we can't get that section, then the black love section going to fall apart. It is. The only reason why a lot of black men even feel they can be homophobic is because they've lost respect for the woman first. So they just don't circle back.
Okay, so tell me how that relates. So
homophobia and cool culture are cousins, right? Because it's self-policing in black community. Instead of letting a black person be free, because they're not physically in chains, we self-police on white metrics. Black society literally does not care for stuff this. We get accused of tribalism all the time. I don't know if you even heard the extent of the concept, but in the basis is that the fact that we have all these little groups. We have Pop the Balloon, we have these people talking this way and that way, that is a problem in black community. It's not. It's not. Unity is when a fractured plays the same song. That's all it is. It's not when a fracture mends. That's supremacy. When you ignore all lines in the sand just to win. White supremacy, right? Unity is when we remember the same song. And what song do we have to play together? The fact that they kidnapped all of us. I don't know how people look past that because every black person getting abducted from a different continent sleeps on y'all. We have almost never ever in human history seen a society recover from spiritual abduction in the amount of time we've done it. And we're still mad. I can't hear niggas out all day.
Oh, you see the recovery. That's interesting. I'm always fixated on the fact that when we talk about our spirituality, sometimes this links to conversation about African spirituality and even Christianity or our faiths in the black communities. It's this idea that there's so much power and that we had this God of a power, or we have this inside of us if it's African spirituality. But yet, why wasn't all that power present before the abduction? Like before the kidnapping? Why? I think that's where my curiosity always lands. Was it not as powerful for us not to get into the situation, or is there power in even coming into the situation?
It's because patriarchy is a natural replacement to matriarchy. They replace each other in a breathing cycle. It's just this is the first time patriarchy has ever gone worldwide. We're in the midst of a disaster level condition, if we're talking about the truth of it. So matriarchies die due to a lack of abundance. So they run out of food, man dies due to starvation, and then the boy goes uninitiated and comes back home stealing something. Remember I said that? Okay, but I didn't talk about what he did to steal it. That's where patriarchy starts to form. So imagine a world where everybody's starving and stuff, and then you're sitting there, the seeds aren't working, everything isn't working, and a man comes trying to trade with you, and he says, oh, y'all pray to a god, but does he protect you from swords? That's basically what happened to Africa. Because in that situation, a matriarchy falls through defeat. A patriarchy falls through a loss of belief. So you could think about it, a matriarchy dies when the soil doesn't respond anymore, but a patriarchy dies when no one believes dad, right? And this is one of those cases where dad is a person conceptually, or the father god, right? Because God was a face of silence at first. But the idea of God is masculinized is intentional because they needed to see themselves as a conqueror. They needed to see themselves as a king. There was a reason for God being on the clouds and a throne. That's not non-specific. People be thinking that, oh, it's just okay for God to be in the clouds. In a matriarchy, God walked amongst the earth. Okay, different situation. You see what I mean? Unprocessed trauma causes that type of fanaticism with going forward. Always keep going, keep going, keep going. Steal more, steal more. That's how that whole thing happened. And Europe was the perfect place for the greatest patriarchy to ever come into existence to spawn at. Because when Europe went bad, climate-wise went bad, displaced everybody. I mean, there's even traceable incidents where the situation in Europe was so bad, they could not tell what day it was because the calendar was not functioning. Okay, that was serious. So instead of embracing the chaos, they just said, well, we're just all together, we're just gonna all go steal. We're just gonna all just accept this. We're gonna dream, we're gonna make statues of ourselves, we're gonna feel better about ourselves, and instead of mourning our loss together, we're gonna go get back. We're gonna go get this bread. Because that's how you end up with the patriarchal society, because when abundance comes back, all they know how to do is steal. So they harass the planet.
It sounds, and I could be hearing this wrong. It sounds patriarchy bad, matriarchy good. Is that a misunderstanding, or is it just the way that both of them can have is bad and is good, or is it really patriarchy is supposed to be stay away from? You know what I'm saying? Because it sounds, because I can understand from a man's perspective if everything that's connected to like a masculinity or perceived is always bad, then you kind of become this person who's against the thing that's attacking you.
This is about to be the most controversial thing I've really said on this. But both systems are bad, but both systems are necessary. Right? So patriarchy exists to contain a man's violence. Because if you ask a person, hey, why can't we just deconstruct the government and get rid of all the police and just actually do restorative justice in the community? I got systems for it. You know the first thing they're gonna bring up for? The first thing they're gonna bring up?
Right.
It's because patriarchy is a system designed to contain men by men. That is the whole point of it. It's designed to contain male violence because they are aware of their runaway train. So they're trying to restrict themselves through a control system. That's the whole point of this. It's a self-awareness. Literally. So matriarchy doesn't necessarily fall, it just fades underneath the tone. People don't understand that revolution is feminine. That's why we get all these rights afterward. Right? It's just a thing. It's a natural breathing cycle. It's just now we're caught in a hiccup because the world broke for a minute. Right? It really did. Something really didn't go right. It really did. And it led to a situation where a lot of men believe that if it collapses again, they won't make it. So now they're building empires just so somebody could mourn him. It truly is that devastating. That's why I'm saying that masculinity, when it's in the air, becomes a sky god that everybody worships. We need to bring it to the ground. We need mythological stories, dead series, even superhero stories that takes a man from the top and still keeps him that same man at the ground, but he still holds just different locations.
Oh, that's good. That's powerful.
They need it. When I
Write it, Justin. Write the story.
Men is crazy. But this is where that's how patriarchy kind of why it's needy. Matriarchy is needy because women have a deep understanding of renewal in itself, right? Cycles, all that stuff. Y'all know that when seeds don't grow, it's just winter. See, it's just stuff that. But in that same way, men need to be they need to go experience risk. Matriarchy never initiates men enough to get them to defend themselves. And matriarchy takes food from men when they steal it if they're starving, which is another problem.
Woo! There you go.
Like that's how women
end up. Good.
Because women fold into patriarchy because they sit there hungry and exhausted, and the man not acting right, but with food in hand.
Wow,
it's how it happes. That's good. Not even alone. It's okay. Let everybody. We just raw in the middle. Let us just be sit there and finish cooking. Same stuff. But still, it's not gonna get better because it's a breathing cycle and everybody's choking. That kind of deal.
Yeah. Well, I know we're coming up at time, and I really appreciate you going through this breakdown with me. I think we accomplished a lot for the discussion on love. I'm taking away, and you can close us out with how people can connect with you and find you, that we need a dream. Even that dream can sometimes feel a disconnect or like a hope that seems it's going to fail. But it was something that you said earlier. Now I can't remember. I was going to connect it. I guess it's gone now. But some of the things that you had mentioned remind me of The Color Purple. And have you seen that movie before, The Color Purple?
My mom loved that movie.
No. Yeah, I love the movie too.
So there might be just a connection.
Yeah. The Color Purple. It has a lot of. There's just a lot that reminded me of this when you were speaking. But at the end of it, you see women kind of putting on the pants, and at first it's kind of they're putting on the pants. It seems they're trying to replace the man, but really it was bringing balance. Right. But it was like understanding what to unlearn and at the same time how to move forward, even though the tragedy and the mistakes have happened.
Right.
But,
and I think one thing that a lot of people need to accept, that when I'm talking about dream, I'm not talking about always dream for yourself. If you can't dream for yourself, just dream it exists. Right? Just in general. But you got to find a spot to contribute. That really matters in the Black consensus. But I will also say that men always go home. Always. It's just the fact that is that they start to think that home was on the bridge. No, home was always back to yourself. Right? But they get caught up on the bridge too long. And I think that that's a lot of the things that people have a hard time. It's like, if you find a man on the bridge, that's not your time to be with him. Okay, you can be with him when he makes it back to himself. You can put a seat right there for him. But if he ain't made him back to himself yet, you only gonna date a person on a journey, not necessarily a place y'all can rest together. Like you just met him at a pit stop on the highway, but he always planned on driving a little more.
Yeah.
So I think it's better that they meet themselves, for sure. You gotta let guys meet themselves. I'm telling you, big deal.
For sure.
Good Lord.
Let them sit alone. Sit alone.
I'm telling you, man. I need more. I need to hear more crying behind in the alley, and I look back and it's just the chef. It's just the cook.
Yeah.
It's just the cook from the restaurant. He was arguing with his wife.
Yeah,
I just need to see that instead of him trying to cook harder.
Keep writing the content. I think this is important for the dream, is for people who can see the vision, who can still dream, for them to keep expressing their thoughts and themselves amongst all of the noise that's saying something different. Because we hear so many things and this, it almost feels defeating. But when we come across content like yours, it's, like, this is thoughtful. This is not, hey, this is how I feel. I'm looking at both sides, why I appreciate you coming on with me. How do people connect with you?
On TikTok or Substack. You could just search Justin Scott somewhere. That'll work enough.
And it does work. It's so interesting. I love how your name is Justin Scott, but you really do just come up Justin Scott. Like, it's Justin Scott. And I think I can go type in Justin Scott and we'll see all these different people with Justin Scott. No, it's you. You made Justin Scott
And I think
the best of Justin Scott.
I think one thing that I definitely would like to leave with is that welcome. I always think disagreement is okay to even welcome, even in places like this, because sometimes they think that the reflection they see here has to be the only thing they accept. I want people thinking about this. That's the truth. Think about this.
Yeah.
I think coming up with the answer is a big deal that no one's taking the time to. We just flinch all day.
Yeah, that's my goal. And this is why I resonate with thinkers. Sometimes I'm going across content and I don't even believe everything. I haven't made that my belief system. But the fact that they are just posing questions that make you think is why I'm there. I know that's why it's in my algorithm. And then it helps me go into, how do I cultivate what I'm actually taking from this, and why I will form a different question, how I get closer. I'm like one of those people I do want to get closer to a solution. So I don't know if that's helping me or not. Yeah. But I'm okay. When are we going to get it together? I know we don't like each other. I know we mad at each other. I know this is happening against us. What are we going to do about it? What do we think are the next steps? So, well, thank you so much for your time. For everyone listening, I hope that even if you agree or don't agree, you can just add to the conversation with your experience and your insight in the most mindful way that you can. That's the challenge. And until next time, hold on to you as much as you can. Hold on to your health, your well-being, and your mind. Be mindful. Bye.